So tell me if any of this sounds familiar. You're out with a few of your friends and you get to talking, but one of you's feeling a little extra political tonight for whatever reason. Before you know it, you're talking about politics and religion and a whole bunch of other stuff you don't usually talk about. By the end of the night, it's just one big complaint about our country and everybody's going back and forth. One hates this, one loves that, one wants more of this, less of that. But no matter how many things you talk about, I can almost guarantee you that you won't have talked about one. And that's the insane costs of our current penal system. The numbers truly are overwhelming. According to the Cerra Institute of Justice, the average per inmate cost in America is just over $30,000 per year. They also tell us that not only is New York the state with the single highest average, but it's also home to the prison with the single highest average inmate cost in the world. At Rikers Island, the cost per inmate per year approaches $168,000. Now this might just sound like a bunch of numbers to you, but let me put that in perspective. The cost to attend Harvard College this year was just about $42,000. That means for what it takes to house one criminal for 1 year at Rikers Island, you could have put your child through all 4 years of their Harvard education at Harvard. And these numbers are unacceptable, and we need to do something to change that. These costs have gotten out of hand because we refuse to attend to 3 issues in our penal system, and that's with sentencing, rehabilitation, and prevention. But let's go ahead and start at the top with sentencing. Our current approach to punishment is one that commissions high-tech and high-cost fortresses with 1 guard per square inch, so that we can take so-and-so and lock them in a cage for X amount of years and swallow the key. But this one-size-fits-all approach is not only unnecessarily costly, it's also grossly ineffective. You see, it assumes that every crime and every criminal are exactly the same and can be dealt with in exactly the same manner. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, studies show that most criminals actually do not even warrant this kind of expenditure on any sort of facility like this. Because according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 3 out of every 4 inmates are nonviolent first-time offenders. And more importantly than that is the fact that 1 out of every 4 inmates is also diagnosed with a major mental disorder. So knowing this, why is it that our first reaction is to get these people and throw them into a box? They don't need a cellmate. What they need is help finding a way out. And naturally, that leads us to rehabilitation. Now, the folks over at the Justice Policy Institute of Maryland did some pretty nice research, which once again illustrated the undeniable benefit of rehabilitation over incarceration. See, they crunched the numbers and they found that the average cost per inmate in Maryland was just about $20,000 per year. But the cost for 1 year of drug rehabilitation outside of prison was $4,000. That means that for each inmate you save $16,000. Those $16,000 can help pay for 4 more inmates. The savings on those 4 can pay for 16, and the saving on those 16 can pay for 68. And from there, the numbers truly grow exponentially. But let's forget that for a moment, because this isn't about saving money or things like that. This is about the direct benefit that rehabilitation offers the local economy of these individuals. Usually, it would be hard to put a number on something like that, but actually the people at the Justice Policy Institute did a pretty good job. What they found was that for every $1 spent on out-of-prison drug rehabilitation, there was a direct benefit of $8.87 to that individual's local economy, as opposed to an only 91-cent benefit if they were treated within prison. Now you're probably asking, well, where did these numbers come from? They seem made up and arbitrary. Well, actually, what they did is they replaced time spent rotting away in jail with time spent at home and actually working a job and making the wages you should have been making, and they factored in the savings of the government, who won't be paying the collateral costs of keeping this family afloat when their main breadwinner is rotting away in jail. Welfare, food stamps, things like that. But this isn't just about drug addicts. There are many more issues in the world, and change can come across the board. Let's give you another example. We have plenty of white-collar criminals, people evading taxes and committing fraud. But what does throwing these people in jail for 20 years really do for anybody? They probably just made a mistake and couldn't stop doing something they needed help stop doing because they couldn't stop doing it because that's why they started doing it. It's a cycle. So for these kind of people, I would recommend something like community service and home and house arrest. A bracelet, or an anklet rather, would only cost about $7 to $12 per day to the county, and the community service offered could help not only the individual personally, but can help restore some of the debt caused or displaced by the fraud that the individual had been performing. Now, speaking of communities and households, that brings us to our last issue, and that's prevention. And we just simply are not doing enough to prevent these issues at the root. We know where and when these problems arise, but our method for dealing with it is to take just the minimum amount of money possible to save face. No, that can't go forward. Moving forward with this new initiative, money and efforts will be better allocated into a more hands-on approach that will put the help directly into these areas of high poverty and high crime. We will directly mentor the youth to change not only their outlook, but the outlooks of their families on their futures, their education, and their place in their community. With time, we will keep families out of jail and at home together. They will fall out of poverty. And with time, the cycle fueling our poverty epidemic will fall out of rhythm. The reliance on government aid will be dismantled, and soon this will become a country, once again, of growth and not decay. But for all this to happen, we need to realize one thing, and that's that the idea of prisons is like an old blanket, one that used to serve us well, but that we refuse to admit no longer suits us, that we've outgrown it. This system is one that desperately needs reinvention to better address the needs of our more diverse population and their unique demons. As we move forward into more trying times, it's imperative that we ask those in power to address the holes in our proverbial buckets. Because if we do not address our issues with sentencing and rehabilitation and prevention, then our people will continue to fall into the same traps. And our children will continue to grow up in poverty and wonder why they're staring at their mother or father through a glass and wondering if they're meant to suffer the same fate. See, the problem is that we can more often than not allow monotony to take hold of us and to fall victim to a web of comfort. But we just can't do this, and I implore you that right now is the time to act. We can no longer wait for somebody else to make the first step. No, together we rise, or together we fall. Either way, it's going to be our call. Let's make this happen. Thank you.